Welcome in to the first ever, potentially first annual Hard Count Mock Draft. This is a mock draft now for college football fans by college football fans. Because the draft, I don't know how y'all feel about this. The draft for me, a little bit bittersweet. It's like a celebration of these guys and their college career, but at the same time, it's like, gosh dang, dude. Remember all those memories we had with Cam Ward at Miami and at Wazoo? Remember all the memories of Shedeur Sanders and what he was doing at Colorado? This is, again, a time for us to remember that, to enjoy that, but to also, if we're going to be real, we're going to mourn a little bit here on this mock draft. Now, if you've watched this show before, you know this is nowhere near what we typically wear. Usually a t-shirt up there at the desk, having a good time. We threw on the jacket for this one, and we're going to deliver the best mock draft the internet has ever seen. So glad to have y'all dialed in. Make sure you are subscribed if you haven't already. This is a college football show, dipping our toe into the NFL Venn diagram a little bit here, giving you a college football-centric mock draft for the first round. I'm not alone here on this show, though. No. I am joined by the producer of the Hard Count, multiple-time All-Sun Belt safety, alley runner extraordinaire on the ones and twos, Kaiden Smith. You know him as Kato. Kato, you're looking good, bro. You're in the suit. It's essentially our draft day. This is something you've been excited for a long time. The draft is, in some ways, kind of your baby, if that's fair to say. Dog, how are we feeling? Walk me through the emotions. A lot of juice in this room right now. How are we feeling?
I'm feeling great, JD. As you mentioned it, the draft is by far my favorite sports thing that isn't an actual sporting event where people are playing. It's the bridge between college and the NFL. All the people who are casual about one sport or the other or diehard get to dip their toe on the other side of it, learn a little bit about what teams need, what college players are standing out. So I'm pumped about it. I love the Combine. I love the Senior Bowl, and I love the first ever Hard Count mock draft. So everyone has a mock draft these days. You can find anyone on the internet has one. So it's about time we got one. I'm excited that we're here, and I'm juiced for it as that logo is behind you.
Here we go. Again, Kato, juiced to have you, man. Juiced to have you producing this thing and have you on camera giving your takes. We're going to, like I said, dip our toe into some of the college football themes across this mock draft here, okay? So we'll give you our picks, give our predictions, but across this thing, interwoven throughout these 32 picks, predictions of picks, will be some college football themes and things to tie back. But let's get it started, man. And it's funny, we have our first ever mock draft with the home team, Tennessee Titans, making their first selection. We just got the word. The pick is in. Titans are not overthinking this one. You're going with Cam Ward, Miami quarterback. You're not surprised. I'm not surprised. Unless they trade this pick, Kato, this is a layup, dude. Like, you go with Cam Ward, a guy who, let's call a spade here, turned around what Miami was on the field. I think he has a chance now to go do that for Tennessee, and his pro day got me fired up. Talking cash to the folks on the sideline saying, I'm solidifying the pick today. Cam Ward, number one, no surprise there. Now, at number two, gets a little bit more intriguing because the first time I sat down to do this, I was like, Abdul Carter. Makes a ton of sense. Why not Abdul Carter? Dude's a freaking maven off the edge. Sounds like there's a lot of intrigue, a lot of excitement around a one Travis Hunter. So I think the Browns actually here, I'm going to trust people that are smarter than me saying Travis Hunter to the Browns, wide receiver, corner, doesn't matter. Get him on the field, right? Get him on the field. Personally, I'd love to see him play receiver and then maybe situationally use him as a corner. I'll say this, though. I think he plays both ways until there's a reason not to play him both ways. Just my humble opinion. So at 3, we got Abdul Carter to the Giants. That's just Cato's hometown Giants. He's a New York Giants fan. I don't know how you pass up on the guy, man. I don't. Like, am I wrong here? I mean, where's number 11 at Penn State? You don't hand that out unless you're an absolute dog. Abdul Carter is too good to not take at 3, even with the defensive line for the Giants being in good shape. Kato, how do I feel about this pick if Abdul Carter is a New York Giant come draft night?
Yeah, I mean, I'm a Giants fan, so it's tough. We get a top 3 pick just in time for there not to be necessarily a top 3 quarterback, and for the best player on the board, one of the few blue chip prospects in the draft to be a defensive lineman, and that's the strength of our team now. So I guess we're just building strength on strength. We obviously have Dexter Lawrence up the middle, Brian Burns off the edge, Kayvon Thibodeau. You add Abdul Carter in the mix, and maybe, it's a Super Bowl type situation to where we're applying so much defensive pressure up front that's the strength of our team, and we can build it out from there. My worry is that Brian Dable and Joe Shane, I think it's pretty clear this is like their last chance, or else they're going to be hot. The seat's already hot, and I think if they don't deliver this year, it's going to be maybe their last season in New York. So I think if you're going for that kind of move and you've already brought in 2 veteran quarterbacks and a Russell Wilson and a Jameis Winston, I think that shows that there might not be going quarterback here. I'm seeing some mocks still have them getting Shedeur Sanders. And as a fan, I'd be excited about that personally, some young energy. But with that many quarterbacks in the room, maybe just if there was an offensive player maybe that the Giants could go up here and get, it'd make a lot of sense. But I think going forward in the draft, they'll keep going offense. I wish Travis Hunter was here. I think if there's a universe where I think the Browns quarterback situation with the contract they gave to Deshaun Watson is so egregious that I wouldn't be mad if they took Shedeur here. And if they did, Travis Hunter falls in lap with the Giants. I think that's a better fit as far as what we need right now. But Abdul Carter is the kind of player where, again, you don't pass up on a guy like that. He's the kind of guy where if you pass up on him and he ends up having the career you think you could have, then it's just a bad look overall and bad vibes, no matter if the coach and GM are going to be there next year or not at all.
Let's say Abdul goes 2. Let's just say somehow, some way, this 100% correct mock draft is incorrect. We got Abdul going 2. You got Travis or Shedeur at 3 for your Giants. As a fan, who do you want them to take?
I'm taking Travis Hunter. I think Shedeur is going to be there regardless. So I'm going Travis Hunter. One of the best ways to help out a Russell Wilson or a Jameis Winston, whoever's starting there, you already have a Malik Neighbors outside. Give them Travis Hunter as well as another weapon in the passing game and have him help out on defense as well. Have him come in nickel packages. I think people have been debating if he should play more offense with less defense or vice versa. I think the offense and the receiver position alone is just too important right now, and he can do too much with the ball in his hands. Try to get the ball in his hands. He'd be a perfect fit in New York. It'd be super exciting. And I don't know if there's any trades in this mock draft, but I think even maybe getting a Travis on the front end for the Browns or the Giants, and then maybe getting a Shedeur trading up on the back end of the first round could be on the table as well, and keeping that tandem impact. But I think Travis Hunter, man, when you think about ceilings in NFL draft history, doesn't get much higher than a guy who is the best two-way player we've seen in college football and has the potential to wear a gold jacket when it's all said and done. So that's where I would lean for sure. If Travis Hunter's on the board, I think the New York Giants are running up to the podium and making that happen.
Just stumbling over, give him the sticky note. Not even use the card, just give him a sticky note and says, Travis Hunter. Okay, I'm here for that. So to recap it, Cam Ward at 1, Travis Hunter at 2 for those of you that are trying to keep track at home of the picks, and then Abdul Carter somehow, some way falls to 3, and the Giants get him at 3, and you get a lot of this in the is it the Meadowlands? Yeah, Meadowlands. You got 11, and you just boom, one of those. I'm here for that. So that's the top 3. At 4, the Patriots just go chalk. All right. So I think you got to help Drake May. You go get the best tackle I think in this draft, A1 Willie Campbell from LSU. All right. So you keep him upright, future of your franchise. You don't know what you got in him until you protect him. So okay, we roll with Will Campbell at number 4 for the Pats. At number 5. From Southern California, not the University of, but from playing his high school football at Servite. You got Mason Graham from Michigan, D tackle, goes to the Jags. I mean, can you ever go wrong adding a dog in the trenches? You go watch the Ohio State game. Dude took over that thing. All right, it was just a bully up front. So I think he goes to the Jags, and I think the Jags feel phenomenal about that pick. Now at number 6, Ashton Genty to the Raiders. Kind of chalky as well. You just got Geno Smith. Like maybe you would have gone quarterback here if you didn't go grab Geno Smith and paid him. Ashton Genty, Geno Smith, and Pete Carroll in the same room. A lot of juice, a lot of energy. Also, running backs are back now, y'all. Like there was a point in time there where running backs were starting to become a little bit of a relic. Are they still going to be as highly valued? Ashton Genty told everybody I think he sent a note to NFL draft GMs and owners. It's tackle football. Pick the guy that can't tackle. So Ashton Genty at 6 to the Raiders. Makes a ton of sense. Now, at number 7, this is where the draft is, I think, informative for college football fans, because this isn't a cat now that you heard a lot about during the college football season because he plays tackle. That's Armand Membu. All right, he goes to the Jets. Jets need help up front. He went and got Justin Fields. Kind of the same logic to help your quarterback. You got to go have someone up front. Jets need a lot of help. That's the reason why they have this pick. The Jets take Armand Membu, offensive tackle from Missouri. You watch his 40, Cato. Dude's running and yelling. That's a top 10 pick for me. I'm not leaving you outside of the top 10 if you're running and yelling during your 40. Also going sub 5 at that size, dude. 300 plus. Layup. Layup for me. He's number 7 off the board to the Jets. Now we got 8, 9, and 10 that I want to throw it to Cato and get his take on this. At number 8, the Panthers go Jalen Walker, Georgia edge. Dog, the Eagles just won the Super Bowl with a team full of Georgia players. Let's follow suit. Explosive edge defender. Did a great job for them a year ago. Waited his turn. Popped this past season. He's a top 10 pick. He goes to the Panthers. I get Bryce Young needs help. I'd be okay if you went offensive weapon there personally. But let's go ahead and roll with Jalen Walker at number 8 for the Thurs. Now at number 9, the Saints. There's a name we haven't said yet, Cato. Second, Colorado Buff off the board. At number 9, Shedeur, baby. All right, let's rock with it. I mean, hey, Shedeur in the Big Easy, in that city, in that division, that to me feels wide open as a Falcons fan. That makes all the sense in the world. If he doesn't go at 3 to the Giants, let's get Shedeur to New Orleans. Let's rock and roll with that now. At number 10, I got Tyler Warren to the Bears. Second best flow in this entire draft behind Jackson Dart. That matters. I think when you talk about the Caleb Williams experience too, dude, like, get him some weapons. All right, Rome Odunze's out there. You got DJ Moore out there. Get him a tight end. I think we could maybe be really cooking there. I love Tyler Warren. Can move him around. 2 Penn State dudes in the top 10. All right, that's James Franklin. For the longest time, we've been saying the talent factor isn't as high at Penn State. I don't think you have that excuse anymore with 2 of those dudes going in the top 10 from Happy Valley. Cato, your thoughts on the top 10? Your objections, where you agree. Give me your thoughts here on this top 10, brother. We're a third of the way through the first round.
Yeah, let's give this bad boy a look. I think that when you talk about this top 10, you went a little chalk at a couple spots. I think a lot of people love the Ashton Jeanty fit with the Raiders, and it just makes so much sense, and I think it's what we're all kind of rooting for. You talk about a team who could not run the ball last year, and on top of that, struggled in the passing game. You have Brock Bowers as a piece, but people forget oftentimes that Ashton Jeanty before last season was one of the best dual threat pass-catching running backs in the entire country. He was just going for that record, trying to win the Heisman. This is a dude who caught 43 passes in 2023, 569 yards, 5 touchdowns. Like, this dude will be a threat outside of the backfield, and I think being in kind of a win-now mode with Pete Carroll, love that pick for sure. It's one that definitely gets me excited and one that I hope happens on draft day. One place I object, and this is kind of unpopular when you look at some other mock drafts.
I like it.
Jalen Walker falling to 8. The more I just think about Jalen Walker and what he did at Georgia, and I agree with you. You talked about how strong of a player he is and made a very strong case with drafting a Georgia guy that early. The more I look at it, I don't know if Jalen Walker falls down to the Panthers. I think if you're the Jaguars, everyone gave the Carolina Panthers rightful hate for how historically bad their defense was last season. Right behind them was the Jaguars, and I think when you have needs on kind of all 3 levels of your defense, and Jalen Walker's the kind of player that can both come off the edge and play off the ball, I think the Jaguars just kind of have to go with him. Is the defensive tackle spot deep at this class, and can you get another guy in the second round? Probably. Is he going to be the level to a Mason Graham or another guy from Michigan? I'm sure we'll hear in this first round. Probably not, but I think when you have a guy in Jalen Walker who can kind of do both, similar to that Abdul Carter, kind of Micah Parsons vein, where you have a guy who can both be a threat off the edge of your defense and an off-the-ball linebacker who can play sideline to sideline. I like him maybe not making that far and going to the Jags, but you mentioned Shedeur Sanders in the Big Easy. It's a good fit for sure. This is a team that desperately needs a quarterback. He'd be in a battle with Spencer Rattler, it looks like, with a Derek Carr injury. My question is, what are Deion's thoughts on him going to the Saints? Does Deion get in the way of that all? I feel like people have talked a lot early in the draft process about the effect Deion would have as far as Shedeur landing where he lands. And I think going to a place like New York, that's a big market. I think Deion would obviously be on board with that. Bringing a town that's been kind of tortured in the Cleveland Browns in that story and what that would be, I think that'd be cool as well. But I feel like we haven't heard much about that fit as far as Shedeur's family side of things and Deion being in the mix and how that would work. So I'd be excited for that too. I could see him going there. I could see him going maybe later in the round to the Steelers, and I could see some other teams who have already picked trading up. But in my opinion, the draft starts after 3. I think as soon as the Giants either pick or don't pick Shedeur, it gets a lot more interesting. And Tyler Warren too, that's one of my favorite players in this draft, so I have to give him a shout out as well. Going to the Bears at number 10, it's very interesting because obviously a new head coach in the fold, and I think when you look at how the Lions were run previously over there in that operation compared to how the Bears are supposed to be run this year with that same play caller, it's going to be interesting to see where they go because they have so much O-line struggle. And I think if Membu falls to them, I think that's a player they wouldn't be able to resist as well in trying to protect Caleb Williams. But at the same time, kind of feel the same way about Ashton Jeanty. You know what Jahmyr Gibbs did for the Lions last year. You know how impactful a big-time back could be. But the Bears, again, is another spot where I'm very interested in to see where they go with that. Tyler Warren's a unique player, and I know that Ben Johnson would definitely use him in a similar way that Andy Koltanecki would, maybe handing him the ball, getting real creative, letting him throw the ball a little bit. So I like your top 10 picks. I hope the draft kind of shakes out like this in a certain way, just from an NFL fan. But you're crushing it, man. Overall, I don't have too many qualms about this. I could see this being the universe we live in when we get to Thursday.
I appreciate that. I appreciate you saying we're looking at in this top 10 here, like Ashton Jeanty to backtrack, put together. All right, I mean, talk about what he was at the pro day, dude, working out without a shirt. I mean, spend some time in the weight room. All right, I think they have dumbbells out there in Boise, to say the least. 2 Colorado players in the top 10.
I mean,
I'm assuming now, so for this mock draft, I should have said before, I am factoring in no trades. So I could see someone trading up for Shedeur, maybe teams trade back and things shake out how they shake out. But, I mean, Shedeur Sanders, I'm assuming anyone who drafts a Travis Hunter or Shedeur Sanders has the blessing from Deion Sanders.
Yeah.
I don't think they're – and so I don't know if that's the Saints or not, but that whole thing is very interesting to see who's in the top 10 if we do get some trades. But let's keep it rolling, Kato. What do you say? Let's jump out here to number 11. We got the Niners picking at number 11. I think you take a guy that can help you on the back end and do everything. Jahdae Barron from Texas. Nickel, corner, safety, roll, like whatever you want to do with the guy, he can help you. I think John Litch, a former safety himself for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, out here laying the lumber at a certain point in time. I think he sees Jahdae Barron, says, I want that guy on my team. Let's rock Jahdae Barron at number 11 to the Niners. Now at number 12, this to me is just, with the Cowboys picking at 12, Cato, this feels like such a Jerry Jones pick to go Tetairoa McMillan from Arizona. I mean, a guy put up ridiculous numbers at Arizona. There was that thing that came out on Twitter about like, oh, he doesn't like watching film or this or that, doesn't like watching football. I think that's an old video, 1, 2. I don't think that's an issue. I think he goes crazy. I think this pick has Jerry Jones written all over it. Cowboys take him at 12. Now at 13, he'd help on the edge. He'd help up front for the Dolphins. Go get Shamar Stewart. Never a bad idea to go to the SEC to help yourself in the trenches. Then at 14, Cato, I didn't know what the Colts needed personally. I wasn't sure exactly what position that they would value. People smarter than me, talking to people in the NFL world, say Colston Loveland. So I'm going to say, okay, Colston Loveland. That sounds good to me. Him at 14 to the Colts. You can't go broke getting paid, dude. You can't go broke getting paid. We saw him when he was, I want to say, either a freshman or a sophomore in the postseason put together, and that was a couple of years ago. So I think he'd be a phenomenal addition to the Colts, and I think him as a receiver in general, with the way the NFL is evolving, Colston Loveland at 14 to Indy, get fired up if you're in Lucas Oil. Now at 15, your hometown Atlanta Falcons, team that I grew up with. I said hometown for you was the Giants as well. Cato played his high school football in Atlanta. I lived in Atlanta for a long time, still got family there. How about Will Johnson, man? Second Michigan man off the board. Go shore up the secondary for the Dirty Birds. Think that's the best defensive back or the best corner available at least. So I think you take him at number 15 for the Falcons. And then at 16, Cardinals need a guard, Cato. Gray Zabel, North Dakota State, from Pierre, South Dakota. When you close your eyes and imagine what a guard is supposed to look like, you see Gray Zabel. I said he's from Pierre, South Dakota. There's nothing to do out there besides push things. That's all he's going to do. So he's going to go to the Cardinals, and he's going to help protect Kyler Murray, help rejuvenate that run game up front. And I think Gray Zabel, our first FCS cat drafted out of this group. So he goes to the Cardinals at 16. And then we got a G5 guy at 17 with the Bengals taking Mike Green. Edge out of Marshall. Need help off the edge? Go get a dude who led college football last year in sacks with 17. So we are Marshall, Mike Green going to Cincy at 17. Cato, we got a few more picks to get through here, obviously, before we finish the first round, but we're just past the halfway point. Give me your thoughts here on, I guess last time we checked in was right around number 10. So 11 through 17. Objections, concerns, takes. What do we got here?
Yeah, so for me, I love the Jahdae Barron pick at 11, one of my favorite players in the draft. I'm sure one of your favorite players as well. And I think his position being that hybrid type of DB that can play a little bit on the outside, play a little bit nickel, play a little safety. I think that had been devalued in the last couple of years, and then all of a sudden you see what a guy like Brian Branch can do for the Lions. You see what a Cooper DeJean can do for an Eagles team, and those are guys that went in the second round in the past 2 years. I don't think teams are making that mistake again. I think Jahdae Barron definitely outkicks his coverage and gets picked higher than normal. Tetairoa McMillan, he's become a very polarizing player here. As a Giants fan, I wouldn't mind the Cowboys taking him because I feel like he's almost turned into kind of the highest ceiling, lowest floor kind of guy. Everyone is making the Drake London comp, saying he's super athletic, but how polished is he as a route runner? I saw Todd McShay bumped him to like his 50th overall prospect on his big board, which is pretty absurd. But I think it's so hard to put a finger on. I think there's safer picks at the wide receiver position in this draft, but maybe not necessarily more talented picks. So we'll see how those guys shake out in the rest of your draft. And then Shamar Stewart, I worry about him for the Dolphins as well. This is a team that has struggled on defense in the last couple of years. And this is, for me personally, I like production more than traits. Shamar Stewart has all the traits in the world. This is a guy that went to the Senior Bowl and absolutely tore it up. But all the 3 last seasons he had at A&M, just 1.5 sacks every single year. So his production isn't there. He's the kind of guy that where you get a defensive line coach who vouches for him, says, I can turn him into a Pro Bowler. I can turn him into an all-pro with those traits. Just get him with me and I'll make it happen. The question is, do the Miami Dolphins have that? I just think given their history and the injuries and some of their misfortune up front, Chop Robinson showed some promise for sure. I think that'd be a good compliment from a physicality standpoint, but can they develop him? I think would be the biggest question there. Colston Loveland to the Colts. I think if either Warren or Loveland falls to the Colts, they're going there. You think about their offense, Shane Steichen. They'll have a quarterback battle this year with Anthony Richardson and Daniel Jones. And the best thing that can help both of those guys out who aren't necessarily known for their accuracy is a completely talented just tight end. And I think getting a guy like a Tyler Warren who can just kind of hand the ball to versus a guy like Colston Loveland who can create his own space, I think you'd be good either way there. So I think those are great picks. Will Johnson a little bit undervalued because of the injury, but I think this is a great spot for him as well. And the question is, do the Falcons try to surprise us and pull a fast one like they did last year and just shock the world with not a quarterback, obviously, but just another surprising pick? I think would be cool to see there too. So I like that stretch. I think that stretch, I feel a little bit even more better about than the top stretch. And that's saying a lot given kind of the predictability with 1-2 there.
Okay, I'll take it. Hey, the Cartiers in Atlanta from Will Johnson, that'd be sweet. I don't know if he would take those. I know it's a Michigan thing, but he takes it to the league. Pretty good history of defensive back play in the A, with Kaiden Smith included into that group here tangentially. So at number 18, Cato, we already have Jahdae Barron off the board from Texas. How about another Longhorn here in the top 20? Matthew Golden at 18 to the Seahawks. All right, you lost DK Metcalf, who is a strawberry milk maven. He's out in Pittsburgh. Now you go get a dude who blazed up the 40 at the Combine, a dude who popped onto the scene this past college football season, a little bit dinged up in the college football playoff, but like when he was healthy, he was the best wide receiver for Texas, which was a room that was stacked per Steve Sarkisian with what he pretty much does every single year offensively. And with a quarterback that really struggled throughout the entirety of the year with Quinn Ewers, came out that he had the injury. So I think Matthew Golden, bro, I think he could be, when this whole thing is all said and done, Matthew Golden could be one of these guys to look back on in the first round and say, man, how did he fall to 18? Transferred from Houston to Texas this past year, so I get there's not a ton of highest level film on the guy, but Matthew Golden at 18 to me would be a home run for the Seattle Seahawks, sitting there just at the just past the halfway point in the first round. Now number 19, Bucks select Jihad Campbell from Alabama. And guy was an All-American linebacker. Take a Bama linebacker. I don't think you're doing yourself any disservices. Not a ton more to say there. You go help the middle of your defense. Go help that unit overall just kind of bolster itself. I love that pick for them. And number 20, this seems to be kind of consensus across the mock draft community. So again, I'm kind of following suit here a little bit. Omarion Hampton, North Carolina running back. Just help Bo Nix out a little bit, man. You got a need at running back. Okay, you have a guy who 1,600 yards last season, and also, as Cato mentioned with Ashton Jeanty, can also help you in the passing game. Dude caught 38 passes last year at North Carolina. Did Omarion Hampton. So I love him at 20, and that's, I think, if I'd put confidence down, Cato, with these different picks, that might be top 3 for me in terms of if the Broncos are picking at 20 and he's there. I think that makes a ton of sense. Now, I want to get your take on this next pick because this is where it gets a little bit interesting. At 21, what does Pittsburgh do? I mean, does something happen with Aaron Rodgers between now and the draft? Remains to be seen. But even if they do go get Aaron Rodgers, you're still going to have a need at quarterback in, a year or two? Potentially. You don't think you're probably picking a lot higher than 21 is how you would plan if you're the Steelers? Go get a gritty dude with the best flow in the draft, just ahead of Tyler Warren. For a gritty college career, had to transfer out of USC when Caleb Williams transferred in. Ole Miss quarterback, Jackson Dart. The Darty gets rolling in Pittsburgh. I think that he would be a perfect fit from a culture standpoint. I think the way that he runs the football and lowers his shoulder on folks would be embraced by the entire Pittsburgh community. I don't know what they call it now, if it's still Heinz Field, but him ripping it up at Heinz Field to me is, I can see it in my mind's eye perfectly. Cato, Dart at 21 to the Steelers. I've heard things about him going top 10, which would surprise me. I mean, it's a quarterback-driven league. Dart to the Steelers at 21. What are your thoughts?
I think for me personally, I just do not see the Jackson Dart first-round hype as much as some other people. I think he's a great player. I think there is Cam Ward. There is a pretty big gap, and then it's Shedeur and Jackson Dart on another level. And I think it's all about the desperation. The Aaron Rodgers has unfortunately put the Steelers in a really tough situation between a rock and a hard place to where you don't know if you're going to have him at all. If you do have him, I think if you come into the draft with an Aaron Rodgers in the fold, this is a guy who last year was the quarterback for the New York Jets, and the New York Jets just picked, 7? So, I mean, if things don't go well, you could very well find yourself with an even better pick than you did last year. He could be the one that maybe breaks this Mike Tomlin curse of going 500 and above. But I think I just wouldn't invest my draft capital when you look at a big board and see how many other talented players are still on the board. I wouldn't feel as comfortable getting a Jackson Dart in the first round compared to if he fell to me in the second or even the third. I wouldn't let Aaron Rodgers dictate that too much, and I would just, looking at this is a starters draft. There's not a ton of blue chip prospects everywhere, but this round and the next round, there's going to be a lot of guys who are starting for you on Sundays. And if Aaron Rodgers comes in, maybe Jackson Dart isn't starting for you, and is he going to be the one that mentors him and gets him right to where he's the future starter of this team? I don't know, but outside of that pick, I love Amarian Hampton to the Broncos. You keep seeing that everywhere. He's a great gadget guy that can do it all for this Broncos offense. Love how he pass protects. Love how he catches the football. Love how he runs the ball, obviously. And I think Sean Payton would definitely have a lot of fun with him. Jahad Campbell's a great player as well. But Seattle Seahawks getting Matthew Golden, I love that pick as well. I heard Matthew Golden described kind of as an in-between Tyreek Hill in Jalen Waddle. He's not quite as fast, obviously, as a Tyreek Hill, maybe closer to a Jalen Waddle. But when you talk about the skill set and the route running and not necessarily being that over-the-top threat like Tyreek Hill, but running those crossing routes and getting active really the same way Jalen Waddle does. I love that pick. I love that player. I feel safer about him personally than a guy like Ted McMillan, not necessarily saying he's going to get drafted before him, but this specific fit for the Seahawks, who have also brought in a Cooper Kupp, who is a polished route runner towards the end of his career, very technical. You pair that with a fast guy who can create space for himself. I think that'd be a great pairing. I think Sam Darnold would not be mad at that at all. So I like that at all. I don't see Jackson Dart as much as these other people, and I put a part of that blame on Lane Kiffin as well in that offensive system and that scheme. Lane Kiffin is very good at getting that first guy open and makes the reads very easy. Jackson Dart, to me, doesn't get to that second read at the NFL level as we've seen some of these other guys, the two guys specifically that are ahead of him as far as processing. And I think if you're going to use a first-round pick on a guy that you're going to try to develop, you want him to be like a Jordan Love level talent, some of those guys like that in the past we've seen. So I like it. I like the picks for sure overall going through this draft, but I think Jackson Dart's maybe the one where I'm not necessarily saying that I can't see that happening. That's been talked about and mocked about a lot, but that's the one where if I'm in the GM chair, I just don't see it as much.
You're good on that.
Yeah,
you're not taking Jackson.
I'm fine. We have some really good players on the board, like we mentioned before, that you're going to mention here that we'll continue talking about, and I would just rather have a guy at a less important position per se that could be a star in this league compared to a Jackson Dart who you'd be kind of taking a gamble on, I feel like, here at this spot.
It's interesting because I think I've heard a lot of that same noise around Jackson Dart and the offense, and there's the Matt Corral of it all, and there's the whole Ole Miss situation with pre-snap. Typically, we know where we're going with the football before we snap this thing. Like, I'm not having to do a lot of real time during the snap kind of processing like you mentioned. I think it's interesting to think about if Jackson Dart has success, what that could mean for Ole Miss football and what Lane Kiffin does on the recruiting trail. Because if I'm a negative recruiter against Lane Kiffin right now, I'm saying, cool, go there, put up numbers, have a good time. But if you come here, we're going to help you have success in the NFL, help you have a good NFL draft profile. You're not going to have to answer these questions at the combine of, well, you played in Kiffin's system. Can you really do this on Sundays? If Jackson Dart balls out, it could be a thing where, similar to C.J. Stroud and the conversation around Ohio State quarterbacks, very different discussion in regards to what they were asked to do, pre-snap and post-snap, all that stuff. But there was a thought for a while, Ohio State has great quarterbacks. They don't do well in the NFL. And then C.J. Stroud very quickly has put that to rest here as of late. But, man, I'd love to see Dart go in the first round. Selfishly, I'd love that, dude. It'd be so fun.
And I think the flip side of that, too, you think about the Steelers. Who's in their division? You have to play Lamar Jackson twice a year and Joe Burrow twice a year. I'm not drafting a first-round quarterback if I'm that team unless I know they have the potential to have that level of talent. And I think even Jackson Dart at his very best, it'd be hard for him to get to that level. And, again, Joe Burrow, coming from LSU. That's a quarterback factory. Like no one, if Garrett Nussmeier is sitting at the top of this draft next year, those same questions you mentioned about Ole Miss, who is directly competing against an LSU, those aren't being asked. We know how LSU quarterbacks have come in the last couple years with Jaden Daniels following in those footsteps. So I think that's a great point, tying it back to the college game. The system, the scheme, the fit, and the talent. I think that all comes together along with the division you play in when it gets to draft time for sure.
If you're a Buckeye fan, you're seeing us talking about your Ohio State quarterback room and C.J. Stroud kind of breaking the curse, if you will, as of late. You're like, hey, Joe Burrow, he played there too now. Joe Burrow was a Buckeye.
Can't claim him.
Can't. Joe Burrow said it. He's like, I went to school at Ohio State, played football at LSU. Regardless, he's doing good things in the state of Ohio right now. Is a one Joe Burrow. Kaiden, what do you say we finish this thing off, man?
Let's
22 go. Up to 32, and I want to get your takeaways here. At 22, we just picked Jackson Dart at 21. The SIP stays hot, man. Walter Nolan at 22 to the Chargers. Big dude in the middle, but what we just said about Ole Miss. A lot of people similar to Penn State. The question was, what's the talent level? Well, you have guys that go play on Sundays. Can I go play on Sunday and get drafted where I want to get drafted if I choose to commit to you in your developmental apparatus? Walter Nolan out of the portal, kind of how Lane Kiffin does things, transfers from A&M to Ole Miss. And for my money, he's a first-round draft pick. Now, this is a super, super deep defensive tackle draft in my estimation. So if you take Walter Nolan at 22, more power to you. If you take Kenneth Grant, if you take, Derek Harmon, you have a number of guys you could put at that 22 spot. But I just like Walter Nolan. And I think him at 22 with the teams he's played against would be the reason why I would take him at that spot to Los Angeles. Rest in peace, San Diego Superchargers. At 23, I just told you the defensive tackle is a super deep position in this draft. I think that this may start a little, not a run, but a light jog on the D tackle position. So at 23, Derek Harmon, Oregon defensive tackle, he's worn green the entirety of his last, I guess decade-ish. Not sure what he wore in high school. He wore green at Michigan State, wore green at Oregon. He's going to wear green in the pros. My guy's going to be a Green Bay Packer. So he drafted to the city hosting this draft, and go ahead and lock that in, Derek Harmon at 23 to the Pack Show. Now at number 24, Nick Emanwari, defensive back, safety, whatever you want to use him as. He was a linebacker out of high school, y'all, from South Carolina. I think he gets drafted to the Vikings. Should be noted too, on 3, Nick Emanwari was an outlier for us. We had him top 10 at his position, only service to do that. So home run, Charles Power, yet again, take your bases, and the Vikings go ahead and get better on defense with a pterodactyl wingspan from Nick Emanwari. Rangy, all over the place. I just tore up the combine, freak show. I'm sure he's one of Cato's guys because of how just physically gifted he is and safety in himself. I love him to Minnesota at 24. At 25, the Texans pick. Protect C.J. Stroud, help him out. The best way to do that, go get a tackle. Kelvin Banks from Texas. When he stepped on campus at Texas, you talk to people that were close to spring practice and getting the intel, and it's like, this dude's going to be a first-round pick. As a true freshman, they knew that. Holds true here. I think he continues to develop even further at the NFL level and has success in Houston, and the Texans get better up front, protecting the future of their franchise in C.J. Stroud. Now, at 26, I'm very curious to hear your take on this one, Cato, when we get through the first round here, because I got Ben Morrison to the Rams. Need help at corner. Ben Morrison from Notre Dame, heard a lot of this season, was supposed to be, the potentially a Jim Thorpe Award candidate for the Fighting Irish. I think if he wasn't hurt, he'd be a top 20, maybe even top 15 pick. You need help on defense, you go get Ben Morrison. I think that's a great pick. I think it might be like the best available corner, if you want to look at it that way. Need help at corner. The Rams go get him at 26. Now, we'll flip the notes over here. At 27, the jog on defensive tackles continues. Kenneth Grant at 27. I think the Ravens need help in the interior, And if Kenneth Grant's just sitting there at 27, you're really not going to take Kenneth Grant. That to me would be shocking. Go ahead and get him off the board at 27 to Baltimore. Now, at number 28, edge from Georgia, Mykel Williams. Maybe this is a little bit lower than some folks could see him going. I just think this is how the draft is going to shake out. Need help up front. Again, it's Georgia. It's the SEC. It's not me having brand bias here. It's just the level of caliber of play you have every single week. Makes a ton of sense to go get him. He was hurt this past season, so maybe he drifts a little bit further down. I can see the lines and Dan Campbell. You see Dan Campbell out there at practice with Mykel Williams. Come on, man. Come on, PicKell. Get your hand in the dirt. Rush that passer. That would be football music to my ears, and PicKell Williams would wreak havoc, I think, in the NFC North on the other side of Aiden Hutchinson, bro. I love that. 29, the Commanders take James Pierce, so another edge off the board. Vols were so deep on defense last year, especially on the defensive line. Didn't get to see him play maybe quite as much as you would have preferred if you're a Tennessee fan. Makes a lot of sense to me at 29 to the Commanders. And then to finish these last 3 picks out, I got the Bills taking Maxwell Hairston, corner from Kentucky. You want to stop Pat Mahomes, go get a rangy corner. You get that Maxwell Hairston with 31-inch arms. At 31, the Chiefs take Josh Simmons. Help Pat Mahomes, keep him upright. Ohio State, bada bing, bada boom, feels like a layup there. And at number 32, before we got rolling, I told Cato I got 3 safeties in the first round. Number 32, the third safety, is Malachi Starks to the Eagles. So the Eagles have shown they like Georgia players. They take another one here in Starks. And I think the great thing about Georgia players, too, they're ready to help you right now. Like Malachi Starks isn't the guy that I think you look at being a project and helps you in 2 years and 3 years. He's ready to roll right now. Pick 32 off the board to the Eagles, the Georgia DB. Making crazy plays against Clemson. I think he had like one-handed like Odell Beckham catch this year. Maybe it was two-handed. It was ridiculous regardless, whatever it was. He goes 32 to Philly. Cato, thoughts, concerns, frustrations, soliloquies. How are we feeling about this one, man?
I think we have my biggest gripe here, JD.
Okay, that's what we're here for, man. Bring it on.
Do you in your right mind think that Chargers head coach Jim Harbaugh would pass on Kenneth Grant at pick 22? I don't think he's doing it.
It's not personal. It's just business.
I think right position, wrong player. I think there's no way in hell that Kenneth Grant gets past him. I don't think Colston Loveland would get past him either. Like, I don't think Coach Harbaugh, who's seen these guys up close and personal, Jesse Minner, who's seen these guys up close and personal, I don't think he's letting them get by that. You know it so well. Could Walter Nolan was a fantastic, obviously, high school prospect as well, which helps in these situations. But I don't think the Chargers are going to pass up on a Kenneth Grant who just his size is unreal. He's a dude who's running down Nick Singleton in games. Like, this dude is a freak, and I think they being the Chargers know him better than anyone. So I think that's probably where I just couldn't see them doing that. I'd be very surprised if they passed on him. But I think the position's right there, and I think there will be a run on D tackles, which I think is important to talk about. You talk about a Derek Harmon from Oregon going to the Packers. You have Kenneth Grant going to the Ravens. Would anyone be surprised if the Eagles continue to bolster up front and got a D tackle and an edge? I think this is the position of strength by far, and I think this could be a good place to see a run where you have some of these teams now who are better teams, who are playoff teams that are only just going to better themselves by getting strength up front. So I love the James Pierce fit as well with the Commanders. Probably the most talented guy, one of the guys that we talked about maybe being a number 1 overall pick at one point. Him sliding down there seems criminal. Same with PicKell Williams to the Lions, man. If that pick happens, that's going to be one of those situations where we're on Sundays like, why did we let PicKell Williams drop all the way down to the Lions? I could see him going a lot higher in this draft. His injuries kind of messed him up this year, and I think took away from what would have been some amazing production. But just watch both Texas games, and you'll see exactly what you need to see from PicKell. So I love the back end of this draft. Outside of that one pick, you asked me about Eamon Worry as well. He's super athletic, lit up the combine like no other, and I think we continue to see the safety position get a little bit more devalued. But I think I don't think he's the best coverage safety in this draft. I think his physical traits have kind of stood out more than some of his production and what he can do kind of on a down-to-down basis versus those big pop plays. But I love this fit with the Vikings, a defense that has established a great defense. I think they could have fun with a player like that, putting him in different situations where he can thrive. I'd be more worried about an Eamon Worry pick in the first round if he was going to a defense that relied on him to be their vocal leader, making checks, doing a lot of different things in the box, out in coverage. The more you put on his plate, I think he needs more to develop in that area, I think, when it comes to his NFL career. But a place like the Vikings, having Harrison Smith in the room, having their defense overall and the culture they've built up on that side of the ball, I feel really good about him going there. And I agree with you with Ben Morrison as well. This is a guy who, if he wouldn't have got hurt, he's definitely a much higher pick. Whoever gets him is getting a gem in this draft class. And I think you got the right positions here. I think defensive tackles, DBs, and edges are going to get 8 up, 20 down. And I think that you're used to seeing those premium guys. Maybe someone takes a flyer on Emeka Egbuka, who's probably the highest floor player. I would love to see him on a team like the Rams where they have Devontae Adams. Yes, you have a Puka Nacua, you lose a Cooper Kupp, but long term, man, could you just imagine a player as smart as Emeka Egbuka just getting together with the head coach over there, getting together with McVay and just making magic happen on offense for years to come? I could see that happening as well. They're going to get a good player there. I think the same thing with Tyler Booker. I think he slipped out of your first round here. It's the guard position thing. I think someone could fall in love with him in the first round and go with Tyler Booker. He's definitely warranted a top 20 pick, I'd say. But you talk about the depth at these edge positions. These are all great players on the defensive front here, but as deep as this class is at that position, in the second round, there's a fall off. So you want to get those guys then. And I think whoever can, if in this scenario, get a first-round pick that they feel good about, and if you can spin the block and get Tyler Booker later in this draft, you're going to feel great if that's your second pick to complement whatever you had going first. So Tyler Booker, again, and Emeka Egbuka are probably the two biggest omissions from
Omissions.
Yeah. They're the biggest omissions, I would say, from the first round. But I think overall it's a good-looking class. I can't complain with it.
It's one of those things, too, speaking to the defensive line, when does that run start? Because I can't see it starting a whole lot later than 22. Could start earlier, I suppose. But if you see Kenneth Grant go, Walter Nolan go, you had Derek Harmon on your board as a guy you thought you were getting, let's just say early second round, end of the first round, you're like, I might need to hit the giddy up and go here. But if that happens later, maybe we see Emeka Egbuka be the Ricky Pearsall of this year's draft, where it's like, oh, yeah, he was first-round caliber, but just the psychology of it worked to where teams needed a wide receiver. They thought he was, the best spot for them to draft there, and bada bing, bada boom, Emeka Egbuka's on your football team. But, dude, so I would love to posture here and be like, no, Kenneth Grant, no way to the charge, and like make it sound like I had this whole thing mapped out. It's an oversight. All right, Jim Harbaugh passing on a Michigan guy. If it happens, I'll beat my chest and be like, I knew it the whole time. Walter Nolan was too good to pass up. But Kenneth Grant, dude, he were in the trenches with, both literally and physically, and metaphorically, I suppose. Yeah, that might be the pick at 22. So we'll flop those. We'll put Walter Nolan just after Kenneth Grant.
This is just 1.0.
This is just 1.0. 1.0.
We'll sneak in a 2.0 maybe on Thursday and get it in right before the draft.
Could you imagine? so some notables here. We mentioned Colorado 2 in the top 10, Big 12 3 in the top 12 for that conference. So shout out Big 12. You got Penn State 2 in the top 10. We already mentioned. Breaking it down by conference for the SEC and the Big 12, did not intentionally do this, is the way it shook out. 14 of the 32 players from the SEC, 8 from the Big 10. Now 14 feels like it's probably on the higher side of what it would look like, Cato, but I mean that's kind of the way this whole thing is trending, right? I mean, even if you're a Matthew Golden, you're playing in I guess Houston Big 12 / G5 previously, transfers to an SEC school. So even guys that got their start not in one of those conferences probably get tallied towards those conferences when you look at the end of the first round.
Yeah, it's interesting how the conference realignment has now shifted things, because if you got drafted by Texas a couple years ago, all of a sudden do you count as a SEC draft pick versus Big 12? So it's funny how that works. I think what I'm more curious about is what team has the most players get drafted, and I'm just curious in general to see how many Ohio State guys go. Not a ton in your first round here, obviously, but when you talk about a Jack Sawyer, a JT Tuimoloau, a Emeka Egbuka, like I just mentioned,
the backs,
like there's plenty, both backs exactly. We have one offensive lineman going here, but I think they're going to have several players on their offensive line get drafted. So I'll be curious to see how many guys they have go, because I feel like year to year now, when you have those national championship teams like a Georgia in the past, like a Michigan in the past, and all of a sudden you're seeing double-digit guys get drafted, I think that helps bolster the conference, one, and then two, obviously for your own individual team, it has to help with recruiting, right?
Yeah.
The most guys getting drafted, it's something you can definitely use to market and recruit and get some more talent to keep making that a trend for sure, I think.
Throw out a social graphic. Most guys drafted in the 2025 draft.
Come on.
Most guys in the first round. Most guys like that. That stuff we're going to see post-draft. That's going to be a lot of fun. Like the college football angle of all of this to me is getting the opportunity, if you're a coach, to then walk into a living room and say, we will get you drafted in the first round. It's not a promise because we think we can do it. It's a promise because look at what we did this past year. Look at Jackson Dart in the first round. Look at Nick Emanwari in the first round. If you're Boise State, heck, you got a guy in the top 10 Like, think about the juice you have now on the recruiting trail if you're Boise State to go and make pitches to future guys that are deciding between you and maybe like a lower tier Power 4 school. Just saying, there's a lot there, and there's a lot that we can take away from this draft. So I'm sure we'll have some reactions to this draft, Cato, from a college football standpoint. But anything you want to leave the people with? Any Cato's flag that he's planting before this draft gets rolling? Outside the Kenneth Grant, which I think we're unfortunately now I think we're aligned on when it comes to that pick for the Chargers. Anything you want to leave the people with? Any words of wisdom or takes? Putting you on the spot here.
Emeka Egbuka, make him pay, man. He's a great receiver. I think there's no secret he's all over the Ohio State record books, and I think he's an underrated Ohio State receiver, which I think is very rare. And I think that whatever team he goes to, I pray now, seeing that his stock is not necessarily dropping, but that there's players that are going to go ahead of him, depending on how many we'll see. But I think if he goes to a good team, I think that's going to just be awesome. And yeah, man, I'm just excited. I think after the Giants make their pick and I can breathe for a little bit, I'll be excited just to watch how the first round unfolds. I made the mistake of betting on the draft last year for the first time ever. I wouldn't recommend it to the people watching at home, but if you're feeling good about yourself, make it happen. We'll see what goes. But needless to say, when Michael Penix got picked by the Atlanta Falcons, it kind of sidetracked me for sure. And it was not a great night, I would say, as a bettor. So be careful. This is a draft. Teams want information out there to use it for or against themselves. It's a lot of chess. There's a lot of dudes who do this for a living who will get 3 or 4 picks right in this draft. So when we talk about the first round. So we'll see. But again, enjoyed this mock. Maybe 2.0 coming. Maybe we start talking about the 2026 draft earlier than some people.
Whoa.
You never know what the hard count, but I was definitely happy to be here on this journey, JD, and looking forward to seeing what this draft looks like in Green Bay.
Dude, this was fun. This was a blast to be able to do this with you, and I appreciate you making all of us smarter, bringing your expertise to the fold. Real quick on Emeka Egbuka, though, before we get out of here. If you're counting Travis Hunter as wide receiver, you got one in Travis Hunter being drafted. You got Tet McMillan. You got Matthew Golden. Past that, though, only 3 receivers in the first round. I say only. That's not a bad number, but 3 receivers in the first round ahead of Emeka Egbuka. Egbuka wears number 4, maybe. He rocks out there for the 4th receiver drafted and just has it just as like the badge of honor the rest of his career. We see guys do that. I'm with you. I think he could be a first-round pick and maybe should be a first-round pick, depending on the psychology of it all. Cato, great stuff, bro. Appreciate you making the show happen on the ones and the twos. And also, like I said, adding some insight, some expertise, some juice on the mic for everyone at home. Again, if you're a college football sicko, make sure you are subscribed. NFL Draft for college football fans based on what we're doing here. We appreciate y'all being locked in, man. File your complaints in the comment section below. We appreciate y'all. We love y'all. We will keep this party rolling, and we will see y'all